Hey everyone, welcome to Area 616. Over the last couple of months, there have been so many leaked images, plot details, trailer descriptions, title predictions, casting rumors, and even plot breakdowns released online regarding Avengers 4. It's kind of overwhelming. Nowadays, it seems like everybody knows somebody who had a cousin whose brother's son-in-law worked as a grip on Avengers 4 and somehow knows the entire plot beginning to end, and the title for that matter. The fact is, Avengers 4 has barely started editing, so those plot breakdowns might not be super likely, or at least are subject to change. Marvel has got spoilers for Avengers 4 locked down tight, with only the occasional leak that I'm not entirely convinced they weren't behind. But every now and then, a rumor comes out that actually seems like it could be true. Every now and then, an actor or producer lets something slip. Every now and then, a picture of a costume or concept art leaks online. So today, in honor of this channel achieving the huge milestone of 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to do something only dreamt of. The ultimate one-stop video for Avengers 4 rumors, leaks, and plot details. I'll be compiling every single feasible detail that we've seen so far. It seems like every time a new picture or casting from Avengers 4 comes out, it gets harder and harder to tell what the movie is actually about, but I'm hoping that by the end of this video we might have a better idea of what's actually happening in this movie. Now obviously I have a ton of ground to cover here, so in order to handle it all and make a video that has some kind of sense, it'll be divided into 3 parts: marketing, characters, and plot. Be wary, I will absolutely be touching on some Avengers 4 spoilers throughout, as well as rumors that may or may not be true, so proceed at your own risk. But before I get into it, I'd just like to take a step back and thank all of my subscribers for getting Area 616 to 1,000. I'm really proud of how far this channel has come in the last 2 years, and I only want to keep it growing from here. I know I've been missing a lot of days as of late, but I'm working on getting back on track. So thank you all so much, and here's to 1,000 more. So with this part, there are 2 main things I want to talk about: the title and the trailer. Fans have been clamoring for the Avengers 4 title for months now, and it's gotten pretty desperate lately. Everyone's got their theory, with a lot of previous contenders being the likes of Endgame, Infinity Gauntlet, and Eternity. Marvel has given a couple of teases for the title though. We know that it isn't spoken during Avengers Infinity War, so it's probably not Endgame. And we also know that it's supposedly very scary, as in, when you see it, you should fear for the Avengers. So that doesn't really fit Eternity or Infinity Gauntlet either. I'm sure you've heard, Mark Ruffalo recently went on Jimmy Fallon and jokingly spoiled the Avengers 4 title, which was bleeped out. However, Superfan unbleeped this and revealed the title Mark Ruffalo spoke to be The Last Avenger. While that is definitely what Ruffalo said on Fallon, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the actual title. I mean, as we all know, Ruffalo isn't exactly the best at keeping secrets when it comes to Marvel's movies.
Wait till you see this next one. Everybody dies.
So it's very likely Marvel just gave him a fake title, especially if it is intended as a joke. On top of that, Karen Gillan, the actress who plays Nebula, has said that not even she knows the title of Avengers 4. So I doubt Ruffalo really knows it either. But in any event, he did say The Last Avengers, so that's definitely on the table. But the other title floating around right now, which is far more popular, is Avengers Annihilation. This is of course referring to the famous Marvel cosmic event in which Annihilus, the ruler of the Negative Zone, unleashes a cataclysmic wave of destruction across the universe. It was a huge game-changing event that put a lot of Marvel characters like Nova and the Guardians of the Galaxy on the map as far as the comics go. It makes a lot of sense, really. It fits with what the Russos said about it being scary. The majority of Marvel sequels always have comic storylines as their titles, so it fits there. Of course, it may seem like that title implies Annihilus' involvement, but I doubt he actually would be, just because he's a lot to bring in to an already packed movie. I'll get more into all of that later though. But the Russos have also said the title is very similar to Forever. So, yeah. But for now, it's really down to two contenders for most fans: The Last Avenger and Annihilation. It's likely Marvel will release the title alongside the first trailer for the movie, which we know for a fact is due before the end of 2018. So when will that be exactly? Well, combining some leaks along with what we can deduce, there are a couple of spots for an Avengers 4 trailer to hit. I'd say the most likely time is in November. Now, of course, they could pair it with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse in December, but I personally think it's far more likely they'll put a teaser for Spider-Man Far From Home with that. So I'm going to say November. They'll probably want to pair it with the big movie's release in theaters. On that note, there are two candidates here. Ralph Breaks the Internet, the sequel to Wreck-It Ralph, which is set to arrive on November 21st. That's a movie from Disney, so that's a very likely option. The other one is Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. It's a bit more in Marvel's lane, a live-action fantasy blockbuster. It's also likely to draw much larger crowds than Wreck-It Ralph, so I'd say to keep an eye on that. Another rumor is that Disney is planning to premiere the trailer at some point from November 26th to December 2nd, either in that week's Monday Night Football or in Good Morning America, a show Marvel has debuted many trailers on in the past. Disney owns both of these, so it's a good option. And it's not like a movie like Avengers 4 needs to be paired with another film. I mean, they could premiere this trailer at 3 a.m. with no teasing whatsoever, and it'd have 10 million views in an hour. So there's always the possibility they'll just upload it on some random Tuesday. It's really very hard to predict. Either way, I think we'll be getting the trailer and title before November is over, possibly in the next 2 weeks. Some leaks have said that the trailer music is a remix of Dust and Light, a very popular and epic track used in the trailer for The Hobbit: The Battle of the Five Armies, one of my favorite trailers of all time, even if the movie was pretty awful. Whatever happens, it's clear the trailer is on the way, so place your bets in the comments below. Do you think the title is The Last Avenger, Avengers Annihilation, or something else entirely? And when are you expecting the first trailer? Being as how Avengers 4 is Marvel's grand finale, it's set to have an enormous cast of characters. It's been repeatedly teased that there's a huge scene which features over 30 Marvel heroes all in one place. I'm not going to cover every character, but I think it's safe to say basically everyone from Infinity War, plus the cast of Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Captain Marvel. But we have gotten some cast and character rumors for Avengers 4, as well as some leaks regarding old characters returning. Just a couple of days ago, Catherine Langford was confirmed to have a role in Avengers 4, but it wasn't said who she's playing. One of the more popular candidates is Kate Bishop. A Hawkeye movie and/or miniseries has been gaining speed lately, so it makes sense. But fans have said she could be anyone from Thanos' mother to Death to a young Scarlet Witch. However, the current rumor out, which I personally subscribe to the most, is that she's playing the daughter of Tony Stark and Pepper Potts. Later on I'll get more into how this could work, but I think that's a very likely option, and ties into the story the best. With Avengers 4, I would not expect too many brand new characters. This movie is the conclusion of 10 years of movies, and I believe, or at least I hope, it'll be much more focused than that. Focused on the characters that have been introduced already, and giving them a satisfying conclusion. Emma Fuhrmann has been all but confirmed to play a teenage Cassie Lang, who is of course Stature in the comics. I'll get into why Cassie's so much older in part 3, although I'm sure you guys know that by now. But I do believe the MCU is building towards the Young Avengers in some way. A while back, a casting call leaked for Avengers 4 asking for twin 2-year-old boys to shoot some scenes in the movie. The rumor is that these might be Billy, Kaplan, and Thomas Shepard, Scarlet Witch's sons. Elizabeth Olsen revealed recently that it's only going to get worse for Wanda in the MCU, So this could explain that, as in the comics, Billy and Thomas were originally made up by Wanda using her magic. There's a Scarlet Witch series in the work for Disney Play, so this could be what it's about. But it's also worth noting that it's not uncommon for film shoots to use twin kids, especially if they're as young as these kids are. That way, if one of them isn't cooperating, they can just swap it out with the other and let that one calm down. In that case, this could also be the kid of Tony and Pepper, if that Kathleen Langford rumor isn't true. Now this one's a bit more of a guess on my part, but earlier this year, a big deal was made out of the fact that a Malaysian actress named Raja Ilya was auditioning for a Marvel movie. Now it has since been revealed that she turned down the role, but considering this all went down around March, my guess is that this was for Avengers 4. And if this is the case, I personally believe she was being cast for the role of Cersei. Later in this section, I'll expand on how Cersei might fit in here, but reports have said she'll be the lead of the Eternals movie. But beyond new cast additions, old characters previously thought long gone have been confirmed to be making surprise returns in Avengers 4. When going over which characters did and didn't survive the snap, the Russos had some interesting things to say. Valkyrie, Korg, and Meek are pretty much confirmed to have survived, but when asked about Jane Foster, it's said to be too spoilery to answer. Jane studied a lot of quantum stuff, so if the quantum realm really is important, and Hank Pym is gone, they might need Jane's help. Another option is that if they're trying to assemble the Infinity Stones, Jane was the first MCU character to come into contact with the Reality Stone, so they might contact her to find out exactly where she found it. Frank Grillo recently confirmed that Crossbones will appear in Avengers 4, saying it's in a flashback. On top of that, a producer for Avengers 4 let it slip a while back that Tilda Swinton will reprise her role as the Ancient One, although she is only shooting for one day. Mark Ruffalo also let it slip, not surprisingly, that he shares this scene with Tilda, which is an interesting thing to learn. Pepper Potts is returning in Avengers 4. This isn't a big surprise to anyone, but it has been confirmed she'll be suiting up in her rescue armor, and this image was even leaked a while back, giving us our first look at her purple suit. There are rumors that the Red Skull will return as well, although we don't know for sure. He kind of seems out of the blue right now, with how packed this movie is. There were also rumors that in the past that Quicksilver would be brought back to life, but Aaron Taylor Johnson basically debunked this not too long ago. Lastly, in a leaked toy package for Avengers 4, which I'll get more into in the next section, it was revealed that the Avengers will be facing a threat even bigger than Thanos. This has sent fans into wild speculation as to who this could possibly be. Obviously, Annihilus is a top candidate, but I feel like it'll most likely be a threat that's been around for a while now. If it's a character who's as fleshed out as Annihilus or even the Magus, another popular one, it'll be a lot to fit into an already stuffed movie. So my pick? The Celestials. Think about it. They were the original owners of the Infinity Stones, so now that Thanos has done something as huge as the Snap, they might want them back. We know that they hate all forms of life except themselves, so maybe they'll want to take the Infinity Stones back and use it to wipe out everyone, not just half the universe. The Celestials are basically gods, and not in the way that the Asgardians are. Asgardians are really just super strong aliens, but the Celestials have literally created and destroyed entire races. They're older than the universe itself and are actually immortal. They're about as big a threat as you can get, and they've been under our noses the whole time. Really, it's perfect. Plus, with Marvel working on an Eternals movie, it really fits. The Celestials created the Eternals. This could open the door for a brief cameo from Cersei or another Eternal, perhaps in a post-credit scene, or maybe even in the movie itself. Plus, Thanos is an Eternal himself, which could really add to the Celestials' hatred of him. Okay, so this is the meat of the video. I mean, I've barely even started here. We didn't know much about the Avengers 4 plot, but we can piece together some rumors and set photos to kind of get an idea. So let's go over the things we do know. There will be a time jump, and it'll most likely be around 5 years or so. We know this, A, because of the Cassie casting, and also you can tell from set photos that Tony's hair has grayed a good bit, so he's older than he was in Infinity War. Plus, this time jump would give the aftermath of Thanos' snap time to settle in a bit. We also know that there will be a bigger threat than Thanos, as previously mentioned, and I think it will be the Celestials. On top of that, thanks to Michael Douglas, we know that the Quantum Realm will play a big role in not just Avengers 4, but the future of the MCU as a whole. But most importantly, we know that the Avengers will, in some form, be revisiting the Battle of New York and possibly other key MCU events. How exactly is becoming a bit less clear by the day. There were a lot of scenes filmed in Japan, specifically with Hawkeye, aka Ronan. This will likely be a recreation of Ronan's entrance in an issue of New Avengers. It's also been said that Black Widow is present for these shoots as well, alongside 2 Japanese villains, one of which is played by Hiroyuki Sanada. Although it's worth mentioning, the extras for these scenes, playing Yakuza, reportedly wore some facial prosthetics, which has led some to say that they might be Skrulls. Perhaps this is a scene that is setting up a future Secret Invasion storyline. A fan got the chance to visit the Avengers 4 set a while back and described the scene they were filming. At the time it didn't make much sense, but now, post-Infinity War, it fits pretty well. He said that they were filming in an open field with a green screen behind them. Present were Robert Downey Jr., Gwyneth Paltrow, Chris Evans, Brie Larson, and Scarlett Johansson. They all talked to each other, with Tony briefly mentioning that he got hurt, but he's okay now. The fan got the chance to ask Downey what the green screen was, and he said it was a spaceship. Apparently, Sean Gunn was also briefly present as well, and he's a stand-in for Rocket. So this scene likely shows Tony's arrival back on Earth. Brie Larson being there is very interesting because it means that Carol most likely runs into Tony and Nebula on their way back to Earth. Nebula wasn't present, as far as the fan said, though she could be added later in post. Or maybe she separates before the other Avengers get there. Also, it's likely Tony was able to get back to Earth pretty quickly, considering that he was actually able to use the Guardian's ship to get back, a lot faster than what Nebula used. It's easy to forget that that was there on Titan as well. Another report said that Josh Brolin shares a scene with Cap, Tony, Thor, Carol, Natasha, and Rhodey. We've had set photos since then of a panicked Scott Lang running through a neighborhood. I'm guessing this is right after he escapes the Quantum Realm, emerging 5 years in the future. Or at least 5 years into the future of a certain timeline. I'll get into that. There are some rumors going around that when Tony gets back to Earth, he revives S.H.I.E.L.D. and becomes the new director, in order to help deal with the aftermath. S.H.I.E.L.D.'s return is given credence by some Far From Home set photos of Spider-Man in a suit that looks like it has a S.H.I.E.L.D. logo on it. There's also this set photo that shows Tony in a S.H.I.E.L.D. uniform, although this looks like it was filmed in the Battle of New York era Stark Tower. With that in mind, I'd personally like to see some Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. characters show up in cameo roles, but I don't know how likely that is. Over the course of filming, there was some surprise filming locations, one being Fort Lay. This is of course where Steve Rogers was trained in the 40s, but also where the early S.H.I.E.L.D. base was, then known as the SSR. Haley Atwell was present on set last October, and that, alongside rumors of John Slattery reprising his role as Howard Stark, leads me to think that this is a flashback to S.H.I.E.L.D. in its earliest days. Believe it or not, to best talk about this part of the video, I have to further divide it into 2 more parts: the survivors and the returned. Those who were spared by the snap and those who weren't. So let's talk about the former first. The generally accepted theory is that Ant-Man will escape the Quantum Realm and help the Avengers travel through time using some combination of Tony's barf tech and maybe the time vortex inside the quantum realm. This will be to collect the Infinity Stones at various key MCU times in order to form their own Infinity Gauntlet to reverse the snap with. Kevin Feige revealed that Avengers 4 takes inspiration from the finale of Star Trek The Next Generation, an episode titled All Good Things. In this episode, Captain Picard is slipping back and forth in time and finds out the reason he's saving humanity. He has to simultaneously guide 3 versions of his crew from different points in the past and future to accomplish their mission. Evangeline Lilly said Avengers 4 reminds her of the 4th season of Lost, a show which famously had a non-linear story time-wise and utilized a lot of flashbacks, forwards, and sideways. All this could explain the Battle of New York set photos, as that's where the Tesseract would be, and could also explain why Tony's in a SHIELD uniform. Perhaps he's trying to break in and take the Tesseract/Space Stone, or Loki's spear, that has the Mind Stone in it. Set photos show a chained-up Loki being taken away by guards, so a lot of this scene likely takes place directly after the Battle of New York. With this in mind, some other MCU times visited can be deduced. Ronan's attack on Xandar, the Convergence in London, maybe the Avengers raid on Sokovia, and of course, Vormir. And they'd know to go there thanks to Nebula. It's been theorized that in order to get the Soul Stone, one of the Avengers is going to have to sacrifice another, maybe Rhodey and Tony, or Steve and Tony. But Red Skull didn't say it had to be a person, he just said it had to be a thing you loved. So, there's that to think about. All this does sound cool on the surface, but it also implies a lot of potentially less cool things. If the Avengers go back in time and start stealing Infinity Stones before Thanos gets to them, this would likely erase a lot of key MCU moments from continuity, and completely erase a huge chunk of the MCU's history, making most of their movies kind of pointless. I gotta be honest, that doesn't sound very appealing to me at all. And it's not like they could just reset everything. Doing so would result in Thanos' victory all over again. I feel pretty confident Kevin Feige and the Russos know this, so I doubt this is actually what's going on in these set photos. In some interviews in the past, various actors have teased that 2 things will play large roles in the MCU going forward: the quantum realm and the multiverse. With that in mind, I'm willing to bet that what we're seeing here may not be the Avengers traveling through time necessarily, but instead through dimensions, maybe to alternate timelines to collect Infinity Stones from there. Or maybe they're creating alternate timelines in the process of traveling through time. This would allow them to revisit MCU moments without worrying about screwing up continuity that's been built up over the last 10 years. We see in these Battle of New York set photos that Tony, Ant-Man, and Cap all have a device on their hands. This is likely how they travel across whatever they're traveling through. It's been said that in Doctor Strange, when Strange is traveling through the multiverse, he briefly visits the quantum realm. So these two may be more closely connected than previously thought. Now, as for how the Avengers are actually taking the fight to Thanos directly, that's another story. They filmed for a bit in Scotland, which is rumored to be a stand-in for Thor's new Asgard. It was also reported that Cate Blanchett was present on that set. She's, of course, Hela, who was thought to have been killed by Surtur in Thor Ragnarok. Although, of course, she's the goddess of death, so it's not that surprising. The rumor is that Thor wants to put together an army to face Thanos with, so he travels to Hel with 1L to gather an army of the dead, not unlike what he himself faced in Ragnarok. This might be where he comes into contact with Hela, and could also explain his vision in Avengers Age of Ultron. While he's there, I imagine he'll probably run into Loki too. Speaking of which, I'll briefly mention that a lot of fans have the theory that Loki isn't really dead, but I'm gonna say this isn't true. I think he will appear in this movie, but I kind of doubt and really hope that he isn't brought back from death. Above all else, including fan service, death must matter. But anyway, it would be really cool to see Thor visit Hel, although I'm not sure how well it would tie into the main plot, based on what we know. In the controversial comics event Ultimatum, Thor does something like this and ends up selling his soul to Hela should he die. this is something I feel like we could see in the MCU. It's been said that this movie draws a lot of inspiration from The Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, and it's said that Thor plays a very similar role to Aragorn in this movie. Aragorn, of course, gets an army of the dead to fight with, so yeah, it kind of lines up. It's also said that there's a Frodo and Sam-esque duo in the movie as well. This, alongside rumors that Nebula has a surprising new friend in the film, leads me to think that it's Nebula and someone else. Another Thor-related rumor is that we'll revisit Nidavellir, where Tony Stark will forge weapons for the Avengers to fight Thanos with. This comes from some concept art that leaked of various axes and so forth that resembles some weapons used by various heroes in the Fear Itself event. In that, Tony built these to face off against Kull and the Midgard Serpent. This story also featured the death of Thor, so that's worth mentioning. Anyway, I think I can see how this all works out. A large portion of the movie sees the Avengers traveling through time and or the multiverse to either collect or possibly destroy the Infinity Stones. They manage to reverse the snap and bring the other heroes back. Then Tony builds everyone weapons from Nidavellir, and they all go for one last stand against Thanos and or the huge mystery threat that's also in the movie. Don't know how Hela fits into all of this, but I can maybe see how it works. So, with that in mind, let's talk about those who were dusted, so to speak. Depending on who you ask, they're either in the Soul World or in the Quantum Realm. The latter has some evidence to it due to the many times it's been said that the Quantum Realm is important in this movie. Leaked toys have shown the Avengers in white suits. These could be for space travel, but it's more likely they are to allow them to travel into the Quantum Realm, as they bear a striking resemblance to Pym's tech. Very recently, more high-quality pictures of the Avengers' individual suits reportedly leaked. These are almost definitely fake. If you really look at them, there's a lot of stuff that's different from the toy packaging, and a lot of mistakes that just don't seem like they were professionally done. But the Avengers will obviously be wearing suits that more or less look like this, so it really doesn't matter. I'd imagine these are nanotech suits, so they form over their original costumes for them to wear in the Quantum Realm. Which, by the way, do you think it's possible the nanotech could give Hawkeye an unlimited number of arrows? That'd be pretty cool. Speaking of Hawkeye, a video showed some stunt work on the set of Avengers 4 that shows what appears to be Ronan being tossed around in a strange new location. The current theory is that this is the city we got a glimpse of in the Quantum Realm in Ant-Man and the Wasp. With that in mind, I think I've got it figured out. The Avengers will need to go inside the Quantum Realm in order to travel through time via the time vortex. So, early on, they all go down there. Maybe the vortex is located inside the city, and some of the locals take issue with the intruders, which leads to a fight. Now, in the previous picture I showed, Carol isn't wearing one of these suits. It's possible Carol just doesn't need a suit in the Quantum Realm. It's been teased that Captain Marvel has some secret connection to the Quantum Realm. Comparing some of the imagery from her trailer to stuff from Ant-Man and the Wasp makes me think that's true. My guess is maybe Carol's powers come from the Quantum Realm. That earlier fan set visit confirms she's with the Avengers when Tony gets back to Earth. But maybe I have it all wrong here. Maybe at the end of Captain Marvel she gets trapped in the Quantum Realm. Maybe she's sucked into the time vortex, where she runs into a future Ant-Man. The two work together to escape, rendezvousing with Cap and the other Avengers, just in time for Tony to get back. In Ant-Man and the Wasp, a big deal was made about body swapping, with Janet swapping bodies with Scott to help Hank and Hope. What if the same rules apply here? The Avengers can travel back in time, but they have to go to those versions of their bodies, which is why a Battle of New York era Cap is there. It's really future Cap inside past Cap's body. Okay, that may be a little far-fetched, and it doesn't explain some things like Tony's gray hair, but I do feel like I understand how this quantum realm and time travel stuff fits together a lot better now. Maybe Hawkeye and War Machine are charged with staying behind and ensuring the Avengers can get back home, which is where these action scenes come from. Now, there is one picture that leaked a long time ago that everyone seems to have just kind of forgotten about. This photo might have major spoilers, so just be warned. It was apparently taken during the editing process for Infinity War and/or Avengers 4, and it shows CGI composites of Doctor Strange and Spider-Man. Strange is appearing out of a portal to Peter and saying they're not really dead and he needs to protect them. Obviously, this could be fake, but my guess is that it's from an early stage of Infinity War's production, perhaps a time when Spider-Man didn't die with everyone else. And I'm pretty confident that this is an Infinity War, as at the time it was Infinity War that was in production. The editing process for Avengers 4 didn't start until like a month ago, but it lends credence to two theories: the victims aren't actually dead, and Doctor Strange somehow escaped this, but made everyone believe he didn't in service of his plan. It's clear that Strange knows how to ultimately beat Thanos, and that the ending of Infinity War was part of his plan. Or maybe he doesn't escape it and he's transported to wherever the other victims are, and begins working against Thanos from inside. Benedict has revealed that he has a lot of lines involving the word quantum. There were reports a while back that Strange has a scene with a big CGI character. This could be anything from his one-on-one fight with Thanos in Infinity War to what rumors have said, which is discussions with the likes of Eternity, Kronos, or the Living Tribunal, all powerful cosmic entities, although perhaps it could be a celestial. Whatever happens, we do know one thing for sure. Most, if not all, of the Snap victims will return. This is evidenced just by the fact that Disney Play is developing miniseries for Scarlet Witch and a Winter Soldier Falcon team-up series. On top of that, Vision is reportedly set to appear in the Scarlet Witch series. Loki could and should be a prequel, sure, but what about Falcon and Bucky? That wouldn't be able to be set in any other time than after Avengers 4, and really the same goes for Scarlet Witch. But we know that there is a scene in Avengers 4 with over 30 characters all in the same place. My guess is this is building towards a big final fight where the entire MCU unites to go after whatever the threat is by that point. Sebastian Stan revealed in an interview that everyone from Nick Fury to Hank Pym to Janet Van Dyne was present. In a behind-the-scenes video released for Marvel's 10th anniversary, we see this shot of Chris Pratt on a lakeside set with a bunch of crew members in the background. This seems to confirm that Star-Lord will return to Earth at some point. As for where this is, I have two guesses: Hawkeye's farm, or perhaps his grandfather's. It doesn't look too much like Hawkeye's place, but I suppose we probably didn't see all of it in Age of Ultron. It would make a lot of sense for Quill to want to reconnect with his family here, especially after such an intense experience. But if this is Clint's farm, it could be set immediately after the unsnapping, when everyone is brought back. Maybe they have a bit of a regroup back at Clint's farm, like in Age of Ultron. As you all know, a lot has been happening with the Guardians ever since James Gunn was fired from Volume 3. Production on that film has been pushed back to 2021, meaning it likely won't release until 2022 at the earliest. We have gotten a leaked director's shortlist of the film. It includes Dee Reese, Michelle MacLaren, S.J. Clarkson, who has directed episodes of Jessica Jones and The Defenders, and Jane Champion. A lot of talented up-and-coming directors. It'll be interesting to see who gets the part. But while it has been said that Gunn's script is still being used, with all of the extensive reshoots since then, many have wondered if the Guardians' fates might have been altered a bit. Every Guardian except Rocket are all dead at the moment, and while they're all expected to return from the snap, that doesn't mean they'll make it out of Avengers 4 alive. Dave Bautista has repeatedly said that he doesn't want to work with Disney anymore, following Gunn's firing, so I wouldn't be surprised if Drax bites the dust. Again, it'd be kind of poetic for the character too, going out against Thanos, who's responsible for the death of his family. One thing I'd personally like to see, and this is kind of weird, is for every character killed before the snap to stay dead. That means Heimdall, Loki, and Gamora. They'll probably bring Gamora back, sure, but I think it would be equally great if they didn't. Volume 3 could be about the remaining Guardians learning to deal with their grief, which would make for a great film. Personally, I could see characters like Valkyrie and Korg joining the Guardians in the future, but that's a whole other video. A past leak revealed that Zoe Saldana shares some scenes with Tony, Rhodey, and Pepper, so she'll likely return in some fashion, though it may not be permanent. In any event, with that said, we can kind of start to understand Avengers 4 now. It seems like it'll be a very crowded movie, but it's been said that it could end up being close to 3 hours long, so it's got some room to play with. But with that said, there is a big question on everyone's minds. Who will die in Avengers 4? Combining rumors with my own speculation, I can build up a rap sheet here. It's been said that only 2 of the original 6 Avengers will survive. I'm gonna say that's not true. I'm sure some of the OG Avengers will die, but 4 seems a bit excessive. I think War Machine is very likely to die. I can't imagine him having much of a role past Avengers 4. And this is the end of Don Cheadle's 6-movie contract. I also feel like Nebula's a pretty likely option, although she could have a future in Guardians Volume 3, especially if Gamora doesn't return. It's said that her arc here is her looking to redeem herself, and that she may even fight a past version of herself. There are 3 characters I feel are pretty safe: Hawkeye, Black Widow, and the Hulk. Clint and Natasha will likely continue to have some cameo appearances in the MCU as well as their solo adventures. There's a Hawkeye project being developed where he reportedly trains Kate Bishop. They apparently haven't decided if it'll be a movie or a Disney Play series yet. It's been said that Hawkeye has a huge role in Avengers 4, and that he will play an instrumental part in defeating Thanos. But this was leaked pre-reshoot, so this could be false by now, for all we know. Plus, the leaker here never really named a specific source, so who really knows? And then, of course, there's the Black Widow movie coming out, which has been confirmed to be set in the past, but I still imagine Natasha will probably survive. As for the Hulk, I feel like the MCU still has plans for him. Being a CGI character, the Hulk doesn't need Mark Ruffalo to continue on, so even if he leaves the role, the Hulk can remain. I do believe we could very well see Bruce and the Hulk separate in Avengers 4. Maybe Bruce dies, or maybe he retires with Natasha. After this, the Hulk will continue to grow smarter and smarter, separated from Banner. There are some rumors that the MCU is building towards the Defenders. No, not those Defenders. Jeff Loeb has said we could see the Defenders' name return, but with a different set of characters. When he said it, we all thought maybe he was referring to ABC's upcoming top-secret all-female team-up series. But maybe this is it. In the comics, the OG Defenders team comprised of Doctor Strange, the Hulk, Namor, and the Silver Surfer. A very strange but weirdly awesome team. I'd love to see them in the MCU, so that's why I personally think the Hulk could stick around. So, what about the big 3? Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor. Well, we all know that Captain America is going to die. Chris Evans has already announced he's leaving the role after Avengers 4, and it's the perfect end to Steve's arc. He could never find peace without war, so him going out, bringing down the ultimate evil, would be the best possible end for the character. It's basically all but confirmed that Cap will wield Mjolnir at some point in the movie, like in Fear itself, which will be really awesome to see. I'm sure he'll also carry his shield as well, after giving up at the end of Civil War. I could definitely see Thor survive and go on to rule Asgard. Chris Hemsworth has said that he'd be willing to continue playing Thor, but instead of signing a contract, he'd like to do it on a movie-by-movie basis. So, basically he'd read the film script and decide if he wants to be a part of it from there. So this could mean Thor sticks around, but he might not have as big a role as he's had in the past. But what about Iron Man? This is the big debate among fans. Will Iron Man die? It could go either way, really. We know for a fact that Downey's leaving the role too, but as far as his arc goes, it could go either way. He could retire and marry Pepper, raising a family, which could potentially explain the farm Star-Lord's on. Or he could go out, finally besting the threat that's been keeping him up at night for years. Something fans haven't really seemed to understand is that when Downey leaves, he's gone. He's not coming back. He's said in the past he's ready to leave the role, but a lot of people have said he'll retire and have small cameo roles in future movies. But he won't. He will never ever be in a Marvel movie again after Avengers 4. That's just the most likely fact. So, while I could see Tony retiring, I'm not sure it would really fit his character that well. I think he would never be able to stop being Iron Man. I mean, really, can you imagine Tony Stark just sitting by and letting someone else deal with a threat like Galactus or Kang while he sits on a lawn chair and drinks some iced tea? There's no way. Considering he wouldn't be making cameo appearances or anything like that, I'm not sure that's an option. Avengers 4 is set to have Cap and Tony reunite for the first time since Civil War, which is the perfect chance to explore something about Tony I've noticed. He's a lot like Steve Rogers. I mean, sure, they have a ton of differences, of course, but when it comes down to it, they're both very similar. They can't stop. They don't want to stop. So honestly, for me, it's just as hard to picture Tony retiring as it is Steve, which is why I think Iron Man may very well die in Avengers 4. Everyone's been calling it for years, which gives Marvel good reason to want to defy expectations, but I'm not sure it would fit Tony's character in the end. I mean, I think they could make it work, and I'd be okay if they did. It's not like I want to see Iron Man die, but as it stands at the moment, I'm not so sure. We know that Harley, the kid from Iron Man 3, will have a small cameo role in Avengers 4. This could be either a funeral or a wedding, who knows. Okay, so I think we finally reached the end here. There's a lot I'm sure I've missed, and some I just flat out didn't mention due to time. It took me a week to make this video, so just due to the sheer amount of stuff I had to write, but it's finally here. If you watched this whole thing beginning to end, I tip my hat to you guys. It's quite an accomplishment. This is very long, but I'm going to sign off here. What do you guys think? With all of this in mind, what are your Avengers 4 predictions? I'd really love to know. And are there any major leaks or rumors that I've missed? Let me know all of your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching and for 1,000 subscribers, and I'll see you all next time.